Tonight, we looked at various statements in chapter 3 of Ethics of the Fathers, and it was amazing how what the sages said so long ago, different culture, different era of history, different continent, and is so absolutely relevant, so telling into how we need to reassess, realign, and in our lives, put God first. All over. So we, a few weeks ago, probably about some weeks ago or more, about 6 weeks ago, we did chapter 2 of Ethics of the Fathers. And now we're going to be looking at chapter 3. So how do we get from 2 to 3 in like 6 weeks? Is that from Passover, from the Shabbos after Passover, Pesach, until Shavuos, every week we learn a chapter of this Mishnah, this tractate called Ethics of the Fathers, which gives us ethics and morals and values to help us grow and ascend from our exodus to receiving the Torah. That is a custom for all Jewish people. From after Shavuos until Rosh Hashanah, some have the custom to keep learning it, to give us the strength to get through the summer, because the summer could be a spiritually hard time. So to give us extra strength over the perhaps challenging summer, we learn it 3 more cycles. From after Shavuos, we complete a whole cycle, and then another whole cycle, and then a third whole cycle, ending at Rosh Hashanah. So over the year, we've actually learned it 4 times. So now we're in round 2, meaning we're the first cycle post Shavuos, and we are, yesterday we just did chapter 2, which means this week is the week of chapter 3. And always when you look at Ethics of the Fathers, there's so many ideas without even probing underneath the surface, just looking at the surface. There's so many different concepts that are like really worth noting, worth thinking about, worth applying to yourself, which is, of course, the idea of all of this is to understand it in terms of yourself. So if we look at the first, this is called a Mishnah. Each statement here is called a Mishnah. So if you look at the first Mishnah, which I'm going to read to you, it says, reflect upon 3 things and you will not come to sin. Know where you came from, know where you're going to, and know before whom you're destined to give an accounting. Where did you come from? From a spoil drop. Where are you going to? To a place of dust, maggots, worms. And before whom are you giving this accounting? Before the Supreme King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He. So this statement is just a very powerful injunction to look at our life and live a worthy life. Where did we come from? And yet look what we've become. Look what God has invested in us. And then what's going to happen? So what's the interim between the point, that first point of conception, and that final point when you're in the earth? Well, this is every single day is your potential to utilize the gift of life that God gave you and know that you're going to give an accounting to God Himself. And of course, we actually give that accounting not only at the end of our life. Annually, of course, we have an accounting in the high holidays, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. Every one of us is judged. Every one of us is accounted for. And we also actually have an accounting every single day. Told every single night we're judged. So there's a daily judgment, an annual judgment, and of course a judgment at the end of our life. So know where you came from, know where you're going to, and know that God is relying on you. He gave you this huge, the biggest gift, the gift of being human, the gift of intellect, the gift of abilities, the gift of life. And He's going to give you an accounting, meaning this accounting is, what did you do with this precious gift I gave you? I gave you this ultimate gift called life. What did you do with it? When you keep yourself focused, God's going to say, what did you do with the gifts I gave you? It helps you produce. It helps you step up to the plate and actually use those gifts in a meaningful way. That's a very basic understanding of this, so we call it Mishnah, the statement, first sense statement in chapter 3 of Ethics of the Fathers. And it's very true, and it really should give us cause to think. On a little bit of a deeper level, or another dimension, which does not at all negate what I just said, and another dimension, this Mishnah, this statement, is actually a little surprising, because the style of Mishnah is very cryptic. It's like Cliff Notes. It's very cryptic. Every sentence contains a lot of information. And there's no extra letters, let alone words, let alone sentences. So if we look at this saying again, it seems there is some extra wordage here, because the Mishnah says, reflect on 3 things and you'll not come to sin. And then it lists the 3 things: know where you came from, know where you're going to, and know before whom you're going to be given accounting. So the question, the Lubavitcher question this and says, who cares if it's 3 things? Like, what do we care? Is that the point, that it's 3? And if it was important, it still doesn't need to be written. We can all count. We all know there's 3 things: where you came from, where you're going to, and who you're giving a reckoning before. That was very simple. Didn't require high math abilities there. So why are we highlighting and seemingly wasting words when Mishnah never does that? So the Rebbe says there's another message here. Beyond the very powerful message on the surface of this Mishnah, we also, because again, we don't want to waste words, so we're embedding another message. This other message is also very powerful. Sometimes we forget that there are 3 important coordinates. And sometimes we think there are 2. And the 2 is myself and God. There's the 2 of us. I'm here to serve. God connects to me through my service, and it's me and God in this beautiful dynamic duo, and that's my reality. The Mishnah says, no, don't make that mistake. Remember, there are 3 things we are listing here that you need to think about to keep from sin, not 2, 3. There's God, there's man, and there's the world. Don't forget the world. We are here for the world, because sometimes we could forget. Sometimes we can be busy with our very holy spiritual service, and that's great, and that's good, and that's wonderful, and that's amazing. And we don't think about the world. The world is whatever it is, it's not something I have to be focused on. And we're told, no, you've got to remember the world. Do you sometimes forget? Do you sometimes, what I mean by forget is, do you sometimes just want to be spiritual and holy and not deal with the world? You want to study, you want to pray, you want to say Psalms. You don't have to deal with all the junk that we have to contend with when we're dealing with the world. Do you ever find yourself in that situation? Maybe not. And maybe you don't have this issue.
But I was going to say, I think I find myself in the reverse.
Okay, what's the reverse?
Getting so caught up in the busyness of the world and the news and everything else that at the end of the day, I realized, I really didn't study like I wanted today. I didn't pray. I didn't think about God. I wasn't spiritual at all.
So that's a far worse problem.
Probably.
But sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, I don't have to deal with all this. I just want to, me, God, and let me be holy. Me, God, and let me focus on my spiritual dimension of life. And it's like, and they're just saying, no, you're put in the world. Now, what you're saying now is a very good cautionary statement. We're put in the world, not that we want that it, sucks up all the life, sucks up all the oxygen. So there's nothing left for God. And like, I didn't pray, I didn't study, I didn't say Psalms. I was just so caught up with my responsibilities and my work and my kitchen and my shopping and the news and right. And we've got to be like, whoa. Remember, it's not 1, it's 3. It's not just you or not 2, you and a world. It's you, a world, and God. But the converse is also true. It's not just you and God, it's also you, God, and the world. Because God put us in this world to work with the world, to use the world to serve him. So either end is no good, meaning just being all holy and godly and you and God and forget everything else is not what God wants. And just you and world is not what God wants. God wants it to be a threesome. You, God, world. He wants the synergy of all three. So when we're trying to connect to God, he put us in this world for a reason. When we're in this world, don't let it suffocate us from our awareness and sensitivity and desire to be godly within this world. And we really, really need both. We really need both. Maybe sort of similar idea in the fifth Mishnah. In the fifth statement, it says, whoever takes upon himself the yoke of Torah, the yoke of government, and the yoke of worldly concerns are removed from him. But whoever casts off from himself the yoke of Torah, the yoke of government, and the yoke of worldly cares are imposed on him. Well, so here we're saying, if you submit yourself to the yoke of Torah, if you're really devoted and committed to serving God and to studying his will and wisdom, you don't need the yoke of the world. We still have to work with the world. We learned that in the first sentence, the first statement, the first Mishnah. But we don't need to be yoked to it. So what that's telling us is we're always going to be yoked to something. We're always going to be enslaved to something. The question is to what? So when the Jews got the Torah, describing the tablets, in the Hebrew it says that the Ten Commandments were charus al haluchos, which means engraved on the tablets. And the sages say, don't read engraved. The word charus, engraved, also means cheros, freedom. So free through those tablets. So here they just got the Torah. They just got the Ten Commandments. They got the tablets. They got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of laws. And our sages are saying, this is your road to freedom. When you're enslaved to Torah, when you're enslaved to God's will, then you have the truest freedom. And if you're not going to be enslaved, you're not going to really be free, because what you truly want, what your truest reality, which is to be one with God, will not happen, will not be expressed. But when you're enslaved and following all the do's and being careful with all the don'ts and studying and praying, and now your real self can shine. Now your real self is oxygenated. Now you're free. And also, the question is, what are you going to be busy with? Like, I'm sure you've all seen this. I've definitely seen this. God can make something that should be long happen really quickly and easily. God can make something that should be short take a tremendous amount of time and be very stressful and very difficult and cost all these phone calls, and you're on hold, and then you get disconnected, and then the person doesn't know what you're talking about anyway. I'm sure we've all been down that road. So what this mission is saying is, the more you busy yourself with God, the more other things take care of themselves. If you're yoked to Torah, if you're yoked to serving God, the other things have to happen, but you don't have to be yoked to them. They'll be okay. But if you don't yoke yourself to Torah, you don't submit and enslave yourself to God's service, then you'll just be very busy with those same things that could just happen so quickly and naturally and on their own take a long time. Have you seen this? Have you seen that the more you're busy with God's matters, other things take care of themselves?
So it's interesting that you're saying this, because I just had this situation where I need to get something done, and insurance, and there are all these things, hoops that you have to jump through and stuff, and it wasn't going to happen. And then, it was going to happen, then it wasn't going to happen. And then it was just like, I was like, well, it'll happen when it's supposed to happen. And then I got an email that was like, it's going to happen, and it was just like, it was really interesting because I was like, I did everything I was supposed to do. And now if it's supposed to happen at this specific time frame, even though it technically shouldn't, I know that, God will push it through.
I totally understand what you're saying. I totally relate. So when you got that email, you knew God pulled a few strings for you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, like sometimes, and sometimes, yeah, I'm like, God, you really want me to waste my time on all this? Like where, things can take so long and be so protracted and so difficult. And then they give you another hoop to jump through and another hoop to jump through and another hoop and you can do it all if you're going to decide that that's going to be your focus. So this mission is saying the more you are choosing God as your yoke, the more the other things don't have to be yoking you. But if you're not choosing God as your yoke and you're submitting yourself to a world, it will take up all your time. It will suck your bones. It will. So Christelle had that experience. Anyone else has had it? I've had it many times. Anyone else has had it? Where you feel like you're busy with God, so God lets other things take care of themselves. Or conversely, you realize, oops, you weren't really busy with God, and these other stuff took a lot out of you.
Well, thinking back when we were first studying about what it was to be a Noahide, my husband and I both were listening to videos on it just constantly. We were completely consumed by it. And thinking back, I'm like, I don't remember doing dishes. I don't remember going to the grocery store, going to work, any of that sort of stuff. It was like just a year of study. But then when we were done, it was like we got kind of thrown back into the real world again.
How did you decide you were done?
We'd listen to all the videos we could find.
Okay. Now you could start with all of mine.
There we go. That's what we need to do.
Okay, that's interesting. Yes. I sometimes have that experience also where whatever, I could be busy with something and like afterwards I'm like, well, how did we live during that month or two? Like what happened? But somehow it happened. Somehow you did put food on the table and you did go to work, but it didn't have to be so all consuming. It didn't have to take up so much space. It can more take care of itself because God was taking up a lot of space. God was taking a lot of space. And that's exactly what this mission is saying. When you give God all that space, the other things, not that you're not going to eat, so you're not going to ever have to, on some level, prepare food, on some level, clean up from it, on some level, shop. All that stuff's going to have to happen, but it doesn't have to take so much time. It doesn't have to be so arduous. It doesn't have to be so demanding because you're enslaved, but you're enslaved to God. So you don't have to be enslaved to all this other stuff as well. So now you look up all my videos and you'll have plenty of things to be busy with, and God will take care of all the other the dishes.
Cyril, whenever you speak of space and busying ourselves and so on and so forth, like I really feel like for myself, like simplifying my life is and my family's life, like I feel like we need to be very simple. Like if we're not using something that needs to go away, if we're, like I'm all the time trying to like I'm going through homeschool stuff right now. And I'm like, this stuff is so overwhelming. I have so much stuff that I'm like, I can't even do this stuff. It feels arduous to even do the stuff that I need to do to plan for next year because I have an overabundance of stuff, And so it's like, I don't know. I just feel like, really guarding things that take up space and time as far as like, how many things am I going to sign up for? How many things am I going to like, set us up for as a family and so on and so forth. And so I'm just curious, is that also included in your space? Like
I
how many
think
extra
so. It's interesting because there's another Mishnah. Let me find it for you. It's in chapter 2, Mishnah 7. Which says increasing possessions increases worry. It says increasing flesh increases worms, like in the grave. Increasing possessions increases worry. The more possessions they have, the more you have to deal with them and take care of them. And increasing the number of wives increases sorcery. Increasing maidservants increases lewdness. Increasing manservants increases thievery. So just the more, oh wow, you're so, again, in our world, we might not be thinking of those things. Many things are automated by us, so we don't need maidservants and manservants. But in those days, meaning is a sign of wealth, that you have possessions and this, and it says you think like, oh, this is good. What you want increases godliness. But as the Mishnah goes on to say, increasing Torah increases life. Increasing assiduous study increases wisdom. Increasing counsel increases understanding. Increasing charity increases peace. So when yes, definitely, this predates you by a few thousand years. Increasing possessions increases worry. Things take up space in your house, and they take up space in your mind, and they take up space in your heart, and you have to, 100%. And if you find that the more you minimize, the more effective you are, and the more efficient you are, the more streamlined you are, then that's good. The only problem is, like I always say, I have a house full of stuff that I don't know if it's important or not. So I always don't know to throw it out or not, because maybe it really is a wire that I need as versus just a wire that I don't need. To me, a wire is a wire. What do I know? It's actually very interesting today because there had been something we were missing from whatever, to attach your phone to your camera stand, whatever. My knowledge in these things is like very, very small. About no. And it was missing, and my son needed it, and And then my daughter said, oh, she found it, and she found it was in Beryl in his room. And I looked at it, I'm like, oh, I've seen that there a number of times. I didn't know what it was. And then I was thinking, well, there was really a double miracle here. There was a miracle I didn't throw it out. Because recently I was like, what's all this stuff in his room? If I don't know what it is, I should probably throw it out. So the miracle is she must have fished it out before I decided to do that. And the miracle is when she saw it and she knew what it was. So I totally agree with you. I definitely think we have stuff and stuff and stuff. And at the end of the day, it's just stuff. I remember when my grandmother, my grandparents, my grandmother was moving to sort of an assisted living situation. My grandfather was already in a nursing home at that time. So my grandmother sold her condo, their condo. She moved to an assisted living home. And I remember looking at her apartment. I mean, she wasn't rich up by any stretch. She had a very simple life. But still, at the end of the day, you're looking at a condo full of stuff. And I was like, that's all it is. It's just stuff. It's just, what do we do with it? Where do we put it? Does anyone want it? So it's sometimes hard. We sometimes lose that perspective. But no, I definitely agree with you, Christelle. I really think, again, we have to have this balance of what we do need. Like, it's good I didn't throw out that thing. That actually is a valuable thing, for some people at least. So God has to be helping us to know what we can throw out and what we can't throw out. But then just like this accumulation, like the sages say, more possessions, more worry, more stuff to keep clean, more stuff to know where it is, more stuff to take up space in your life. Definitely, if you find that the less you have, the more you're able to deal, go for it. If you have that luxury, go for it. It helps. It definitely helps. And I think we all are in the space of like when things are neat and clean and organized, like, oh, our brains can function. We can breathe. We can like expand. So sometimes we just need to out till you can be in that space. Totally understand that. Okay. So let's go to, so we're discussing here, when we're busy with God's things, he can let the rest of it take care of itself. We're talking about our relationship with God. In the 9th Mishnah, it says something interesting. Anyone whose fear of sin comes before his wisdom will endure. But anyone whose wisdom comes before his fear of sin, his wisdom will not endure. So it's saying, we're talking here about, like we said, declutter the life, focus, know what you want to be enslaved to, be enslaved to God, let the other stuff, God will let them take care of themselves. When we're talking about this relationship, this Tana here, the sage here is saying, most foundational thing in your relationship is your fear of sin, not your wisdom. Your wisdom, your Torah study, your knowledge, as you, like Natalie said, you watch another video, you gather more points, more information. It's also very, very important. It's wisdom of God. It's very important. But we're told that if your fear of sin is less than your wisdom's not going to last anyway. But if your fear of sin is stronger and more foundational, this will support your wisdom. Which means as you learn, you need to make sure your relationship with God, your fear of sin grows as well. Because it's possible to be acquiring more knowledge, but not to be growing in your relationship with God. And then it becomes knowledge, good knowledge, godly knowledge. But it's weaker because the roots it needs is a very strong relationship with God. I don't know if anyone here has experienced that, where they feel like sometimes they're studying, so they know more, but their relationship with God is not getting strengthened. It's weakening because you're not focusing on relationship with God, you're focusing on the knowledge. Or conversely, someone who is focused on their relationship with God, is focused on that fear of sin, then whatever little bit they know, they feel it very strongly takes root inside of them. Have any of you seen this in either direction? When the fear of sin supersedes the knowledge, or conversely, if the knowledge supersedes that fear of sin?
I'm going through it right now. I can tell you that. It's very humbling, and I'm having trouble focusing on my studying, and the sin has gotten me so distraught because of a situation that has happened that my sin is overwhelmingly so bad that I can't study. And I've just went through a prayer time trying to get through my prayers without crying because of my sins. And it's sins that not even are my fault in a sense, but in an indirect way, I caused them. So I'm having trouble letting go of that so I can study and retain.
So you're saying that you feel that you were involved in something not good, and that's so bothering you that you're sort of stuck.
In a way, yes. I was involved by accident with something that is really good, but could possibly could be damaging to, okay, I gave some food to the rabbis. I asked if it was okay. They thought it was, but then they found out later that it's a possibility it's not. So I'm trying to find out what the chickens are and where, I know where they come from. They come from up the road. And so the lady doesn't quite understand why I need to be so particular. And so I'm just, it's not a sin, but it stressed me to the point where my study and I can't, I have trouble retaining it because I'm so wrapped up in this thing that hopefully will be resolved by tomorrow.
Well, I hope it should be resolved by tomorrow. When did this thing start?
Friday.
Friday. Okay. So I know myself sometimes, actually lately, I feel like I've accidentally done wrong, and not meaning to at all, but accidentally done wrong. And what I have to do, what I've been doing is I assess, I give myself a little space to think about it and assess, is it something I need to take on, something to repent for? Because of course, God always opens the road for repentance, and repentance is a way of actually coming closer to God. Like, why will God let me mess up? Because then I'll repent and come closer than ever before. And, sometimes I think it over and I'm like, no, it wasn't really anything it was a mistake and there wasn't anything really wrong in it. And then sometimes I'm like, it was a mistake, but it was really wrong. I
My
had something
problem
happen to me recently, it was a mistake, but it was really wrong. And then I
The
thought,
problem-
what could I do to make up for that? And I came up with something. And so I feel at peace because, well, now I'm closer to God than ever before because I took on something to come closer to him because of this mistake that I made. So it's, if you make a mistake, again, like you're saying, a situation, I don't know, of course, the details. You say I didn't make a mistake at all. I was like an innocent bystander within the situation.
Yeah.
But again, you could sort of say, do I need to do something or not? Maybe no. Maybe whatever I've been going through and whatever I feel bad about, that was it. And that humbled me. And maybe that was part of God's plan. And I got this humbled feeling and move on. And then if you say no, even if I was only indirectly involved, but if I caused someone else to sin or to do something wrong, then I'd like to take on something to come even closer to God. And then you do so, and then you move forward and you feel good because even though you messed up and you felt very bad, you messed up, or it very accidentally messed up, but you feel good that now, because of that mess up, you're closer than ever before. Many of the things I've taken on myself over the course of my lifetime is because I messed up. Either it's because I messed up or because I need God's help. So, either God, I need you more, so I'll take on more. I need you more, I'll take on more. I need God a lot, so I take on a lot. Or, oops, I messed up by accident, unwittingly, but I did mess up, or I was part of a mess up, and then I'm taking on more, and I'm taking on more, and I'm taking on more, and that when you're doing that, like, okay, it's done. Because if there was anything bad, it now became good because of what you've now added through the process. So that's it. No more self, beating oneself up over it. No more bashing oneself. This was a purpose. The purpose was me to become even closer, and I'm closer because of it, and I move forward. But it was interesting.
The rabbi has said it's my problem because he said it's not your fault. He said you didn't intend to do it. He said it's a tiny technical thing that almost didn't even get caught. And it's the color of the eggs. That's what it's over. And it's like, I had no idea that you could not have green eggs unless you knew exactly what kind of chicken they came from. And the neighbors have the green eggs. And I brought them dozens of green eggs. And the problem is they had ate them 3 weeks before that. And so I feel horrible because if this lady will not let me take pictures of these birds tomorrow, then the whole kitchen's going to have to be koshered for a lot of money. And so I'm just praying that the lady cooperates and lets me take pictures of the bird, because I know they're kosher birds. I know, but it's a bad thing. And it's me that won't let it go because the rabbi's fine with it. It's me. I can't believe I was trying to do something good and help, and this could happen. I don't know. I just am sick about it.
Well, honestly, I would view exactly as the rabbi's viewing it. Whatever it is, it's the rabbi's journey with God. If the rabbi has to make his kitchen kosher, maybe there was other things that went on in his kitchen that he didn't realize, and he needs to make kosher for that. And this story is helping him make kosher. He's thinking it's because of the green eggs. Maybe it's for a different reason. And the rabbi's doing whatever soul searching he needs to do over it. You were the complete innocent bystander in the situation. I wouldn't even view that as a situation where there is something you need to add to repent for on any level. Or if you want to add, maybe what you could add would just be, next time I want to give a Jew a gift of food to help them, I'm going to first ask them all the details relating to it as a precautionary measure. I know it's totally fine, but I'm going to first ask, run through all the details, and then gift.
Well, the sad part is I did ask. I brought the eggs in and I asked, but his son didn't know that. And so that's how it happened, because I did ask.
Okay. So
I'm
you
very
did your
careful.
part 100 plus. You're
I'm
100
very
plus.
careful with you Jewish people to be sure I don't give you anything that you cannot have. You know,
So
I try, you know.
don't, and God willing, she'll let you take the pictures and there'll be kosher birds and he won't have to kosher his kitchen and all will be good. We always want to be God's tool for good.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with you at all, but we want to be God's tool for good. And that's definitely true. We all always pray that God should use us as his vehicle for helping people. God should use us as his vehicle for good. That's what we all want. And God willing,
That's all I
see
ask.
it. God willing, you will see that you are his vehicle for good.
I'm trying. I'm trying.
You will see it. God willing, you will see it and let us know the happy ending of the story.
I will.
Good. It was interesting. A lot of people put up on the chat that they totally relate to this concept. And Natalie is echoing your story. And yes, it is very difficult to give a Jew a gift of food. I mean, you can always go for like whole uncut fruits and vegetables, unless you live in Israel, and then that's very complicated. But if you're not in Israel, probably whole, uncut, untouched.
I was gonna ask, what's the recommendation?
Yes,
What's
that's what
the
I would
gift?
say. Fruits and
Okay.
vegetables are outside of Israel are pretty safe. I can't think at the moment of any problems there could be with a fruit or a vegetable outside of Israel. If they say, oh, these are Israeli fruits or vegetables, don't buy them. Israeli fruits and vegetables can be problematic, but otherwise, fruits and vegetables are. If you want it to be a gift of food, that's a good idea. I mean, to be honest, I mean, even within that, I'm just saying that that's really not even true. There really could be problems with fruits and vegetables. So let's be very specific for the next time you want to give your Rebbetzin a gift. Stick with non-buggy fruits and vegetables, meaning you could give apples, oranges, pears, bananas, peaches, plums, melons. Don't give strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, anything like that, because those all could potentially have a lot of bugs. If you want to give vegetables, stick with like tomatoes and cucumbers and celery and zucchini and carrots and onions and potatoes, squash, and don't give all the leafy stuff. Don't give broccoli and don't give cauliflower and don't give asparagus and don't give kale and don't give lettuce and don't give spinach and don't give any of that stuff, because those all could be very problematic. So you see, even fruits and vegetables, you got to be careful with. But I just listed some. Cherries, yeah, cherries generally should be fine. It's just amazing nowadays how many things are infested with bugs. And biblically, it's a very big problem to eat a bug. So some of the things are checkable, but who wants to do that? Not me. And some of the things are not checkable. The buds are so small, or the leaves are so tight, like in a broccoli or cauliflower, like impossible. Definitely not worth trying. Asparagus, no way. All right, that was that brief little journey to another direction. Or you can just bring her like a case of toilet paper, or had a baby, give her a case of diapers, and that will probably also be very appreciated. But it was interesting, getting back to what the Mishnah was saying, that a lot of people could relate to this idea of study versus fear of God. And it's very interesting that sometimes you can focus on knowledge, focus on study, but then you have a hard time with prayer, you have a hard time with God, you have a hard time with following the rules that you know God wants from you that are difficult for you. So there always should be this like balance of how, not, again, the goal isn't to cut down on your study. That's not the point we're trying to say here. The goal is to make sure your fear of God, your fear of sin, your relationship with God is stronger always than the study. And that's what anchors the study and makes it something alive and makes it something that brings you closer to God. That study is never supposed to be academic. It's never supposed to be, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's knowledge. Everything we learn is interesting. Bob Rebbe says this very often. The word for, you know, our foundational work is called the Torah. So the root word of Torah means instruction. Bob Rebbe says many, many, many times that everything in Torah, everything you learn, is supposed to be an instruction for you how you're supposed to live your life, how you're supposed to be a better person, how you're supposed to be a more godly person, a more refined person, a more moral person, a kinder person, a more compassionate person. That's what it's all about. And if you're learning and it doesn't translate to action, it doesn't translate to your relationship to God, it doesn't translate to you becoming a better person. So why were you privy to that Torah? Why are you privy to God's will and wisdom, to God's secrets, to God's like diary, if it's not a vehicle for you to come closer to God? So again, the point here isn't to say cut back on the learning. The point is to say demand from yourself that as you're learning, you translate it into the vernacular of your life. And again, it doesn't mean don't appreciate the academic. I mean, Torah is brilliant and it's a brilliant philosophy and it's a brilliant life system. Its morals are amazing, of course. But we don't want to be like the ancient Greeks, right? The Hellenists. They appreciated the brilliance of Torah. They just took God out of it. That was the crux of their horrific crime. So we never want to learn as like, wow, that's so brilliant. Wow, that's so cool. That's fine to say it's brilliant and cool. It is brilliant and it is cool. But like, how does this translate to me? How does this translate to me to be a better, more godly, more moral, more refined human that God gifted, sharing his secrets, his inner world, his will and wisdom with me, for me to become ultimately closer to him and more a vehicle for his pure light to shine in this world. That always has to be the checks and balances as we learn. That should really help us in our life every single day. Okay, so that was that Mishnah. That seemed to resonate with a lot of you. Now, very similar, that was Mishnah statement injunction 9. Now, 10 is very similarly following along these lines. Anyone whose good deeds exceeds his wisdom will endure. But anyone whose wisdom exceeds his good deeds, his wisdom will not endure. Anyone with whom his fellow mans are pleased, God is pleased with him. Anyone whom his fellow mans are not pleased, God is not pleased with him. So again, very similar to what we were saying before about your fear of sin more foundational than your wisdom. We're saying here, your good deeds have to supersede your wisdom, which again is not negating the idea of learning at all. We want you to learn. Learning is a great tool to connect to God. I'm a big believer in learning. But we want to make sure that your growth and your closeness to God is commensurate with your learning. So like he's giving you here like a test. How much you're learning, your wisdom, your knowledge, and how much are you doing for God? Your actions for God. And if the scale's not balanced or tipped to the side of action, saying there's a problem. If it's tipped to the side of knowledge, not tipped to the side of action, there's a problem. And you really have to look at yourself and ask yourself, so what in my life am I doing? Which could be actions I do, or it could be obviously actions I abstain from doing for God on a daily basis. Charity, is that part of my life, my children's life? Prayer, psalms, the foods we eat, the conversations we allow ourselves to talk about, the conversations we don't allow ourselves to talk about, the words we don't use, the dress we dress and the dress that we don't dress. My life, what? All day my life is about God. Great, amazing. Or I don't really translate God into my life. It's more like, my understanding. No, the understanding has to translate into the details of life. When someone walks in your home, they should feel it. It should be palpable. It should be in your air. And then they should look around your house. And they should notice your holy books. And they should notice the absence of your TV. And they can be like, wait, I'm in a different world here. All this holy books, no TV, what's going on? Oh, this is a godly home. So if you're looking at it, can you think of a way you could intensify the deeds that should be the expression of your understanding and your knowledge? Or can you say, no, actually, I think we're doing pretty good. I think throughout our day, you feel it. You feel it in all the little details, because you should be able to feel God in all the little details. Any thoughts on that? You could chat it. You could say it. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, then you have to add to balance that new TV. I'm sure possibly, perhaps, I don't know. I was going to say, I'm sure you can use it for good also, but I don't really know if you can. Maybe. I don't know. But it's like when I walk in your home. When someone walks in your home, do they feel it? Do they feel the air is different? The atmosphere is different. It should feel different. You feel a godly home. You feel it. It's godly. You feel the godliness. And again, you feel it in how the family is interacting. You feel in the details as you eat your food and make your blessings and bless God afterwards. And again, what you eat and how you dress and how you relate to other people, and morality and modesty and virtue and the refinement of language. Right. Exactly. You got to add to balance all that out. Exactly. Then you'll take it away. Anyone's done things recently that they felt have added to that godliness in their daily life and in their home? By adding or by subtracting?
So I think it's getting rid of the stuff that takes space, that we don't even realize sometimes. Like even like stuff on the walls and just, just in general, just taking away the things that cause you to have to manage them, so that we do have more time to slow down and to think about, to the godliness of our life. I think sometimes, we allow ourselves, I think we get so busy sometimes because we feel in life, and so we make ourselves busy, so so that we don't recognize it. But I'm thinking in those moments, I don't know, I mean, you would be able to tell us, I'm sure, like, instead of making yourself more busy, to not think about the thing missing you, to turn to, God instead.
Yeah, you're right. So you're talking about taking away things that have sort of cleared up your mind and cleared up your clutter and enabled you to have more space to connect. There's also sometimes in your home, there could be things that are
Yes.
negative. You don't really think about. They're just there. Remnants of a previous lifetime, so to speak. And have you gotten rid of all of them? Every object has its own energy. Is there anything in your home that has an energy that you don't want? Or conversely, bringing more good energy in, bringing more godly books in. And in terms of your actions, as I said, and how you talk to people, and how you dress, and how you eat, and how you live, and how you get up, and how you go to sleep, and everything in between, there's always opportunities to do this as a godly person. As a godly person, as a person connected to God, that's how I'm living my life and living the details of my life. Even you're talking to your children, always bringing God more or less. Talking to other people, bringing God more or less. So there's always opportunities in both directions. And it's, we always want to make sure that our actions far tilt the scale over our knowledge, our wisdom, because then our wisdom is going to endure.
I'd like to share. Since we moved, we made it like me and James were saying, my husband, we were saying that we wanted to really focus on saying our prayers before we eat, because it's not something that for whatever reason that we were really doing. And so once we moved, we felt like we had a
New
clean
beginning.
slate. That was a good opportunity. Yeah. We say our blessings before we eat. And it's amazing how quickly the children have caught on to that, right? Like, even if I'll forget, I'm taking a snack and eating an apple or whatever, and my kids will tell me, "Oh, blessing, gotta say your prayer first, blessing." It's amazing. It's so amazing. You're 3 years old and you're reminding me to say my blessing before I eat. But so I wanted to share that, tonight today's Father's Day. I know it's not a religious based holiday, but we did have my husband's dad over for for a meal, and we had some other various family people over today, and we were getting ready to eat, and many of them started eating, and James said, "I'm going to say a blessing." And actually, before he said that, Zipporah, which is my 3-year-old, she said, "Blessing, blessing. I can't eat before you say my blessing." And she's 3. And I was so impressed by that. And I felt so much, I was just so happy that, he said the blessing in Hebrew. And then I asked James to say the blessing in English so that everyone understood what he was saying, and added prayer to it. And it was just so like, I'm just still kind of processing it, because we were sitting down as a family around a table. And I know, Cyril, for you or for the Jewish community, that's not really a big deal. But the fact that everyone could sit around and say a blessing before they ate, and, they took that, it was beautiful for me. And for other people, I'm sure there as well, like, they witnessed that, and they noticed that my 3-year-old was like, "We have to thank God for our food before we eat it." So I just wanted to share that.
That's beautiful. I think the children are for sure the ones that always lead the way. The younger they
Yes.
are, the purer they are. The world hasn't messed them up
Yeah.
that much. So
Yep, thank
definitely,
God.
whenever you're teaching something, I think you will always notice, generally, the younger the child is, the more they just like get it, like straight into their heart, go straight inside.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
so much purity in young children. And very often, like other people, like you're saying, the adults, when they're hearing a 3-year-old say, "We have to bless before we eat, we have to thank God before we eat," they can absorb that from a 3-year-old and be touched far more than just if your husband said it,
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
That's really beautiful. So you see, that was a concerted effort on their part. So Danielle is saying true confessions. I should have been doing this for years and I wasn't. But we decided new home, clean slate.
Yep.
New kitchen. We're starting off right.
That's right.
And look how quickly it just became the culture of their family.
Thank God.
That is really good news, because my boys are really good about praying before, but we haven't really built it into our routine to pray afterwards like we really should.
We're not there yet.
My 5-year-old does.
That's on the list.
My 5-year-old does coach the 3-year-old, although he's been doing it since they were 4 and 2. Every word of the prayer before he eats. And we were like, well, he's 2, like he's still learning to talk. He'll get that, because he would just kind of mumble
Yeah.
and
Yep.
group all the words together. But it was the older brother that was like, no, you have to do it right. You have to say this and then this and then this and then this. And it was really adorable.
That's beautiful.
Aw.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And it's great, as you're saying. So Danielle's saying, so we really were a bit lax, and we decided we're stepping up to the plate. And Natalie's saying, oh, by the way, there's a blessing after one eat. And she's like, I know, and it's on my list. So that's fine. You know, there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with things on your list, as long as you keep moving up the ladder and getting closer and closer to God. It's fine to say, right now, I'm stretching myself to make sure I say a blessing before. And when I have that mastered, I'm going to stretch myself and say the blessing after. You know, maybe you say, well, now I'm stretching myself to make sure I tithe the money we earn. And then I'm going to stretch myself and make sure every single day I put money in the charity box, or maybe every single day I put money in the charity box, but I don't know if I'm actually giving 10% of my earnings to charity. So I'm going to have to stretch myself and make sure I do that. So, you know, it's totally fine to always have more. The point is, you want your actions to overwhelm your wisdom, because then your wisdom will maintain your relationship to God, how you translate it into the vernacular of the details of your life, the details of being modest, of dressing modestly. Oh, now I'm dressing modestly. Maybe now I'm going to upgrade and change in the bathroom, to only change in a place that's meant for changing and not just like in my bedroom. Well, that's a whole higher standard of modest behavior. True, because there's layers and layers and layers and nuances and nuances and nuances in being a refined, godly person. But you don't have to have mastered it all. But you always want to be adding and moving on the ladder of your relationship with God. And I guess we will stop here and not finish anything else. And that's fine. Wherever we do, the idea is to really take it to heart and hopefully to find the personal application. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Everyone, just try to take at least one thing, put it in your heart, put it in your pocket, figure out how you're doing it. Dixie, I hope to hear the happy ending to your story. And we should all merit to know we're always going every day closer and closer and closer to God.
Amen. Amen. Thank
Thank
you.
you for joining.
Thank you.